As the new trading week kicks off, the major U.S. stock averages are rallying. We're seeing global risk sentiment higher today, and this does come on the heels of the French election results. Joining me now is Peter Cardillo for Standard Financial. Peter, great to have you here today.
Good to be back.
Well, we're seeing a relief rally following the first round of presidential elections. We're seeing this sentiment reflected in equities as well as other markets, including the the foreign exchange markets as well as commodities. So where do we go from here?
Well, I'm glad that you said we're seeing the results of the first round of the elections. As you know, there's a second round. Now, of course, the far right and the far left has been eliminated. And, of course, now we're dealing with the center right and of course, the right in itself. So, basically, the question is who will win? And what happens once this euphoria of the good news fades? I think it's a little too early to really say, well, the center-right has got it this time and it'll be the end of it. The threat will diminish. Not too sure about that, because if you look at the results, the margin of victory by Macron was not all that impressive. And so what happens to the votes of the remaining parties that were eliminated? Where do they go? Of course, it's good news. I'm not saying it's not. But I think the markets may have gotten a little bit ahead of themselves. And a lot of this is due to short covering.
And Peter, as we mentioned, this is the first round of elections, so we need to keep in mind we still have a ways to go. And we also have the parliamentary elections taking place in France in June, so we need to keep that in mind. But given that here in the U.S. we have a slew of earnings, we have concerns about a possible government shutdown, as well as a possible tax reform from President Trump. How are you weighing those risks?
Well, look, as far as the earnings are concerned, there's no question that earnings are coming in better than expected. There's been one or two disappointments, but by and large, these earnings are good. And so the market cannot deny that. And the market is not denying it. Unfortunately, the market is denying something that I think could come back to haunt us. Today we're focusing on the French elections, but there's been a lot of negative geopolitical rhetoric over the weekend, especially when it comes to North Korea. And so, the testing of North Korea's patience to the United States could be a major problem in the coming days. And so that's a real worry and a real concern. As far as the macro news, this week we'll be looking at the gross domestic product for the first time in the Q1 results, and we're looking at 1.9%. It's a shade lower than we saw in the fourth quarter of last year. Basically, as far as tax reform is concerned, well, the news has already been let out. And so it's just a question now whether or not the administration will truly be able to implement tax reform. If they do, it's going to be a big plus for the markets. If they don't, it could be the day of reckoning.
Well, we have plenty of risk events that are on the horizon. So given that there are geopolitical, political, as well as financial concerns going forward, are there any technical levels you're paying attention to?
Well, yeah. NASDAQ made a new high today, and of course, 6,000 is not that far away. As far as the S&P is concerned, we just hit a number today that could mean the market could move higher in the short term. But again, we're still subject to a lot of non-fundamental problems for the market.
Okay, Peter. Well, thank you so much for joining me at the beginning of the week. And next time I see you, it'll be May. So thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thank you.